This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Welcome to Learn from Others. This is Greg Stanley, and I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Todd Black. Todd, thank you for taking us on your career journey. And before we find out what you're doing today, can you tell us what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was a kid, actually what I wanted to be when I grew up was an archaeologist. Because my favorite movie was Indiana Jones, and I love history, and I still love history. And so I wanted to be an archaeologist. And my dad...
I cannot picture that.
Dad, I know. But that's what I wanted to be. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And I was at the University of Arizona, and I was studying finance. And when I started school, my dad said to me, he said, "You know, son, that's a great hobby, but I'll help you get a business degree." So once he told me that, I was studying finance.
So did he put a line in the sand saying, "I will not pay for an archaeology degree, but I will a business degree"? Hey, yeah. All right.
And he was right. It is a great hobby. It's a hard way to make a living. I have friends that have done it, and I still love history. I still read a lot of history, stuff like that, and I like going and seeing museums and, archaeological sites, and I just love history and stuff like that.
Ah, that's awesome.
He was right. It was a better idea.
So what was your first job? Now, this could be like walking the dog, mowing lawns. It doesn't have to be your first job where you got a paycheck. What was your first job?
My first job in my family, when the boys in the family were 12 years old, they'd go work in the summers for my uncle and his construction company.
Ooh, ouch.
And so, yeah, but we got paid for it, so we made money, and that was in Las Vegas in the summer, so it was 114 degrees.
Wow.
But I started out on a trash truck. They were building condos in Las Vegas. I started out on the trash truck and then graduated from that to landscaping. And then from that, I graduated to concrete laborer, which was...
Is that really a promotion?
It was. It was better money.
Oh, better money. Okay. I was like, man.
And it was after each summer. So the first summer I did the trash truck, and that's pretty basic. And then landscaping, that was more fun than trash trucking. And then concrete was a lot more fun. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed.
Did you get to drive did you ride on the big trucks? Is that why it was so exciting?
No, it was just neat to go to work every day and do something, and at the end of the day you saw tangible results from what you're doing.
Oh yeah, true.
And it was physically hard. It was tough. I mean, shoveling concrete in Las Vegas in 115 degrees is hard work, but I was making good money at the time for that. And actually it was that experience when I was a concrete laborer is when I figured out that I would rather make a living, from the neck up than the neck down.
Well, that actually leads right into my next question. How did this first job shape or change your future goals? That would tell me, well, I don't want to do this for a future living.
Right. I loved the work, and I was actually learning concrete finishing. So you'd go and you'd shovel concrete, and then afterwards you'd kind of come back and you'd clean up the job site. And the concrete finishers are kind of like artists, and so you're learning from them. You're getting them tools, helping them get everything done, and it was really cool. But one day I was out there working. We were working overtime, and my buddy was a concrete laborer with me, and his dad was a finisher, and so we'd get our work done and then come back and help his dad. When you got concrete on the ground, you're moving, so it's from when the mud hits the ground to everything's done. It's 10 hours.
Right.
And so one day I was out there, and my buddy's dad was finishing concrete, and at the time he was probably 42, which is younger than me now, and he was struggling. He had some physical struggles as a result of that job. And I thought, that's not really where I want to be when I'm 42, which back then I thought 42 was really old.
Yeah, that's like ancient, right?
Oh, it's way ancient. So.
I'd like to point out that I'm actually older than you, so...
But only by a year and a day.
That's right. Only a year and a day. So I got that going for me.
That's right.
Well, so thanks for telling us what you wanted to be when you grew up. Well, tell us now what you are actually doing as a quote-unquote grown-up. I use that term loosely.
Well, obviously it is loosely. So I'm a certified financial planner, and so I help people make smart choices about their money so they can achieve their goals and live their ideal life. So my focus is really predominantly financial planning, and then getting someone's entire financial house in order so that they can accomplish what they want to accomplish. And it's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
No, that's great, because I know a lot of what you do is relationship building, and obviously you're somewhat gregarious and a fun guy to be around. So I imagine that really plays well to your business.
And that's a great point, because, while I have a finance background in economics and accounting and a certified financial planner license, really I'm not in the money business or even the financial business. I'm in the people business, because when you're looking at somebody's dreams and goals, you're looking into somebody's eyes and asking them what's important to you, what do you want to accomplish, and helping them to map it out. And so there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of advice, there's a lot of accountability, particularly accountability, because everybody performs better with a coach. You and I have had mentors and other coaches and people that have helped us to achieve our goals. And that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm essentially coaching people, helping them to identify what they want to do and then keeping them on track to accomplish it.
Right. Now, this is somewhat of a curveball for you, but what is your typical day like? Because I imagine you're all over the place, is what my assumption would be.
It is all over the place. Well, obviously, you can tell already from the interview from my personality that I'm all over the place. And that my business is a function of that. So a typical day, like today I got together with a client.
Is this at your office? Is this at a Starbucks?
This is at the office.
Okay.
This is at the office. So we'll get together and like today I helped them to implement some advice that I've given. It's easy to kind of figure out, what should I do? But the hard thing is implementing everything. If you want to get the results, you got to implement. And so most of the time when I'm meeting with people, it's a progress meeting. And we'll be covering what we've accomplished, where they're at, are they on track or off track to achieve their goals, what adjustments do we need to make? Do we need to make a course correction? Because life is dynamic. What's important to us changes. I mean, you and I have known each other. You realize we've known each other about 25 years?
Yeah, that's kind of scary. Time flies.
It is scary. It is scary. And what was important to me 25 years ago is very different than today, and even 5 years ago. What's important to me is different. So you've got to make adjustments, and that's really the biggest part. In my opinion, that's really the important thing about what I do is help them to make the adjustments they need to make, reevaluate, and hold them accountable.
Yeah, so speaking of which, you kind of touched on it there. What is the most challenging aspect of your job, and also the flip side, the most rewarding aspect of your job?
The most challenging part, okay, I've got a story for that. The most rewarding part is seeing people achieve their goals.
Right.
Seeing them get from here to there, from point A to point B, and knowing that my input in support and coaching and encouragement help them to accomplish that. That's the most rewarding part. And probably the hardest part is when a client passes. I had a client pass recently who was actually the first lady that ever signed up with me.
Wow.
That was actually a blessing because I got to help her. She retired in the mid-90s, and she's been my client for 20 years. I started my company when I was 25, and that was in 1999. And we went through 3 crazy, bear markets and all kinds of crazy stuff, and she never ran out of money, and she was comfortable, and she was able to complete her plan. And that was beautiful on one hand. It was a blessing that I got to help her to do that.
Right.
You got to when you see somebody you care about that, she's family to me.
Right.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, you really got to help make sure she was provided for throughout her life, which is amazing that you're able to do that type of service. Yeah. Before we move on to our next question, we're going to take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Do you enjoy your job and find it fulfilling? Or do you spend more time wondering what if instead of what's next? If so, contact Career Spa. Career Spa has extensive programs and curriculum and understands the challenges faced by individuals in transition. They can teach these success practices to be mastered for an effective job search. Answer that what if question by contacting Career Spa and asking their experts, what's next? Contact Career Spa at careerspa.net. Talent acquisition is key to building a successful organization. Talent Connections is a professional services firm that specializes in recruiting, including executive search, contract recruiting, talent acquisition consulting, and recruitment process outsourcing. Whether you are an individual or a Fortune 100 company, Talent Connections can connect you with success. Contact them at talentconnections.net. Welcome back. We just learned what you wanted to be when you grew up and what you are actually doing today. So Todd, tell us, if you would, what would you do differently, if anything?
What would I do differently? Gosh, there are things I'd do differently, but I don't think I'd become who I am had I not done it the hard way.
Right.
When you look back on some of the stuff that was really horrible when you went through it, and there were some times that were really tough. Like I said, I started my company really young, and actually, if I knew everything now, then I would have really thought hard about it.
A totally different path?
Yeah.
Archaeology,
no,
maybe?
It wouldn't have been different. No. But it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. So that ignorance was bliss, and it worked out good. And actually, going through those tough things is what makes you who you are. It helps you to become something better. So if you're going to be the best version of yourself, which is my goal, is to be the best version of myself, you got to go through some tough stuff. And I have, and I am, and I will be part of life. So I guess it's when you're in that, would I make different choices? Yeah, a few things probably, nothing really, probably more about my attitude going into it.
Okay.
Having that, being open to grow from the experience instead of stress from the experience. That's something you don't learn until you've been through it.
That's true. Yep. Right. No, that's a good point. Well, now, if one of our listeners wants to become a financial advisor, do basically what you do, is there a typical career path? If so, what is it? Or what advice would you give the younger version of yourself? Whether it's education, go to a different school, same school, do a different job, to train up for it. Is there some type of advice you would give to our listeners? Okay,
that's a tricky question. So in the financial services industry, there's basically two kinds of professionals. One is a financial product salesperson, and that could be insurance or annuities, or back in the day when I started, it was mutual funds and limited partnerships.
So that's one in which you're selling a product.
Correct, and that's not my field. My field, I'm a fee-only certified financial planner, so I don't sell products. I give advice, I manage portfolios, but I don't sell products. To do what I do, it's harder to get into. It's really easy to become a stockbroker or an insurance salesman, and they'll recruit people because they got to recruit a lot of people because not very many are going to make it. Right. And that's the truth with any sales-oriented profession, and it's really hard to break into because when somebody starts as a financial advisor, a Merrill Lynch or a mutual, some kind of a life insurance outfit, you're in your 20s and you're trying to sell products to people, you don't really know a whole lot. You don't have a lot of life experience with, so it's a hard thing to do. Probably the easiest way to become what I am, there isn't really an easy way, is to get on with a registered investment advisor or a fee-only financial planning firm as a paraplanner, like an analyst, and work your way up. And that's hard to do. It's just really competitive. However, I would encourage listeners to look at the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, which is also called NAPFA, N-A-P-F-A.
Yep.
And some of their programs. And, it's a hard business to break into. I wish there was a simple way to say it, but there isn't really a career path that's to do what I do that's easily discernible. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The assumption is you would need a college degree in the financial field at minimum?
Yes, you'd need a college degree at minimum. You'd look at the Certified Financial Planner designation, and if you go to the CFP board, they'll give you some information with that as well. But really, that's the technical side of what I do. The real skill set is the people skills. And actually, if you become a financial advisor, if you do any other kind of career path, if you can build your people skills, you can add value and you'll get compensated for it. Like I mentioned earlier, most of what I do is coaching. It's accountability. It's encouragement. It's not. I'm paid more for that than I am my technical ability. And my technical ability is sound, but my people skills are way above average.
Yeah, and that's
I don't mean that to sound
right. No, but that's the intangible skill that is very hard to teach. Wow.
Well, you can learn it though. So, like what I tell a lot of younger folk. Books that I would read, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's one of the greatest books of all time that nobody reads. Anything that has anything to do with communicating with people, particularly developing listening skills, is brilliant.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that is actually a book I've read. So, hey, you're one for one. Now,
clearly, it's contributed to your success. I can tell.
Now, are there any current projects you're working on that you would like to share with our listeners?
My current project, actually, my main project is get better every day at what you do. I mentioned earlier, my goal is to be the best version of myself and really reflect on what that means. That's what does it mean to be the best version of yourself, be it spiritually, be it as a person, be it in your work, in your craft. What I do is something I can constantly improve on. In the sort of the experience that I provide for our clients now is better than it's ever been, and I want it to continue to happen. And I get feedback from them on that. A year from now, I want them to be closer to their goals and have more fun when we get together to meet because we're getting them closer to their goals.
Yeah, I think that's key to living a long life is, continue growing, continue learning, find out what's new, something that interests you, and just continue to get better. That's a great point.
Well, it's mastery. You're never going to be, it's a never-ending process, and that's the beauty of it. And if you can get into kind of a groove where you appreciate it and love it. And actually, another book that I would recommend to read is called Mastery, The Keys to Success and Long-Term Fulfillment by George Leonard. And it talks about how when you initially start learning something, it's difficult. And then after you practice for a while, it gets a little bit better. And pretty soon it's like second nature to you. And if you can apply that to just about anything, any profession you're in,
absolutely,
you're going to add value and make a difference.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's great. Thanks for making those recommendations. Well, as you know, with most journeys, success largely depends on reliable transportation. And since I'm a car guy, you obviously know this. What was your first car?
My first car was a 1985 Ford Bronco named Clyde.
Clyde, named Clyde.
Yes.
That's a great
Clyde,
truck.
Absolutely.
Why was it named Clyde? After a horse?
It was actually it was named Clyde after an orangutan in a Clint Eastwood movie.
Oh yeah, that's
Any Which Way But Loose.
Yep. Was that one of your favorites?
Absolutely. Can't you tell?
Wow, that's a great first car, and that was in Las Vegas, tromping through the desert.
It was Las Vegas and Tucson, Arizona.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. Well, what is your dream car?
My dream car, actually, I learned on you did an animated series, one of your many projects, and now my dream car is a Ford F-150 Raptor.
You're one of the 100 you're one of the 159 that saw it. That's awesome.
It was amazing. I shared it. It was a brilliant animation.
Well, for
the
our
fact that it would get me through the zombie apocalypse. That was a selling point for me. Pushed me over the edge.
Well, for our listeners who would like to know more, I did a animated car video called The Best Truck to Escape the Zombie Apocalypse. And you can check it out on my YouTube channel. Thanks for the free tee up there, Todd. Revved Up Motors. So just check out Revved Up Motors on YouTube or Google The Best Truck to Escape a Zombie Apocalypse. And when you see the Raptor running over zombies, you'll know you found the correct one. So that's awesome. That's a great truck, too. So... Well,
you sold me on it.
Oh, good. Well, that wasn't my intent. Wasn't to sell people. Well, I guess that was. I don't know.
Well, I needed to know the best truck in a zombie apocalypse.
Everybody needs to know that.
It's all about being prepared.
That's right. Everybody needs to know that. So, well, one thing I'd like to do is to pick out a cool company car for you. Now, to do this, I'm basing it on typically the job function. But this one is much more based around knowing you in person. So you're fun, you're gregarious. I think the whole neighborhood you live in knows you. You're always willing to have a good time. And so with a few modifications, the car I chose for you is the, I think it's a 1967 Pontiac GTO custom built by George Barris for the Monkees, the band. Have you seen this ride?
No, I haven't. I'm going to Google it shortly.
Okay, so it's totally customized. You're one of a kind. You're a one of a kind guy. It's a huge convertible. The convertible actually goes into the trunk, so you could fit like 10 people in there. It's gorgeous. It's loud. And the only additions I would do to it is I would probably add like red pepper string of lights, around the top of it, because you're a party guy.
I completely agree with that. Red peppers is absolutely the right bling for my ride.
And then I think the horn should change out to where it does the one of those Mexican tunes. I'm drawing a blank on it right now.
That would be ideal. I agree. I think
La Cucaracha.
Mariachi tune. La
Yeah.
Cucaracha would be great.
I think
that's entirely appropriate.
Okay, good. I'm glad you like the.
What about steer horns on the? Should I get some steer horns on the hood?
Yeah, why not? We can add those. It's got an elongated hood.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's got the exhaust trumpets coming out from right behind the rear. Actually, the hood is taken up by a huge engine, but I think we could fit those steer horns on there somewhere. So.
All right, that's what I need. Perfect. I agree. Well done.
Well, thank you, Todd, so much for taking us on your career journey today. Where can our listeners learn more about you and or your company?
You can learn about me really on LinkedIn. Would probably be the easiest. And my name is Todd Black. It's Todd Black CFP is my LinkedIn. Or you can look at my website, which is dogwoodcapital.com. So it's www.dogwoodcapital.com. And my company is Dogwood Capital Management.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Todd, for your time today. I really appreciated it.
It was wonderful. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.